What's up, my hunting brothers and sisters? Today we are going to take a look at sharpening the whole lineup of Magnus Broadheads. If you followed me for any length of time, you know that I am associated with Magnus. I've been with them since 2009. It's the only broadheads I use. And at Magnus, we get a ton of questions on how to sharpen them. So I'm going to go over it all with you here today. Now, the content in this video is going to be the same content you can see broken up across like 3 videos on Magnus, but I'm going to consolidate them all in one for my channel. Just kind of help to spread the word on how we're going to sharpen something out of our single bevel family group, our Black Hornet family group, and our Stinger family group. We're going to use everything from simple little jigs all the way up to a work sharp sharpener. So the big dog Cadillac of the sharpening family. So with that, stay tuned. All right, so editor Derek here. Just give you a little bit of warning. I've already published all 3 of the videos on the Magnus YouTube channel. I'm combining all 3 into one video here. It's going to be very long. I wouldn't expect anybody to watch the whole thing start to finish. If you do, God bless you, and I appreciate it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put chapter markers in here so you can jump ahead if you feel that a certain type of sharpening fits your needs. These are very detailed, so this is long. Each section is anywhere from 20 to 30 or so minutes long. So again, this video is not going to be for everybody, but jump ahead where you want to, watch as much as you want to, as little as you want to. I don't blame anybody. I just hope that this is helpful. Again, these are on the Magnus YouTube channel. With this channel, hopefully it just spreads some more word. So there you go. With that, enjoy. Hey everybody, Derek Craig here with Magnus Broadheads. Today we're going to take a look at sharpening the Magnus Stinger family of heads and the Black Hornet family of heads. This is going to be kind of the down and dirty, relatively low cost as far as equipment goes, best way to sharpen these heads. In particular, we're going to look at something like the small jig from Stay Sharp or the jig from KME. So with that, let's get started. All right, so what I have here is a pile of broadheads that have been shot many times. I got a Stinger. I believe my daughter killed a deer with this years ago. Here's a Black Hornet Ser-Razor that I shot, probably hit some rocks and stuff, definitely not sharp. Here is a Stinger Buzzcut. You can see it's got paint on it, and also a Black Hornet, the non-serrated paint on them. These are like practice heads. So these have been in and out of targets, foam targets, hundreds of times. So that's how I identify my practice ones. So we're going to talk about putting a new edge on these. Okay. So the down and dirty way to do this, there's a couple down and dirty ways. You could do a pull through sharpener. This is just one example. There's many of them, a lot smaller ones you might get with, say, like a fillet fishing knife or a fishing fillet knife. It's got like a little cross of a couple edges in there. And you can use this you can use this on your stingers, and you're going to pull through. It's going to take you a while. You're really going to have to work it. If you were like in the field, you're out west or something, I would use one of those in a pinch, okay? I would not use these on a buzz cut. Hear this? That's the serrations. They're making chatter on these, and you don't want that. You'll round out the serrations. Again, if you were out west or someplace out of state and you don't have access to your good sharpening equipment and you got to put an edge on something, you got to do what you got to do. But we're talking about how are you going to sharpen these at home in your shop, okay? The down and dirty, most inexpensive way would be something like this Stay Sharp little jig right here. Now this is basically a 3D printed product. I jumped online and I bought it, I think, don't quote me on the price, but I think it's in the $25 mark, something like that. It's not very expensive at all. Another type of jig, which is a whole nother level of price point, would be the KME jig with their sharpening stones. And I think there's some others, but you get the point. This is the one to do it as far as down and dirty, kind of inexpensive. before I tear these apart, I'm going to show you, these are all dull. I mean, this doesn't even want to cut the paper, doesn't want to cut the paper. None of these, as you can tell, are sharp whatsoever. So just standard notebook paper. All right. So let's talk about tearing these apart. So the tool that you need to tear them apart is a Phillips screwdriver, and you need a number 1. Okay. Now number 2 is the Phillips screwdriver that we probably all have oodles of, that you would run around and you would change out light plugs, or, I mean, it's the most common. Okay. That's what most things are. Number 1 is a little tighter point, but it's not eyeglasses, okay? It's not an eyeglasses or a really fine tip, but number 1 is what all Magnus heads use. So I'm just gonna pick one here. Let's start with a stinger, this stinger that's dull, okay? And you wanna be careful, even if they're dull, things can be sharp, and so you're just going to remove the screw, as I about cut myself there, so let's just do it by hand. There you go. Okay, rather than use the motor and slice my fingers up. And remember to keep track of your parts and pieces. You're going to slide out the blade, okay? And there is a block in these, and sometimes you're going to need to take, say, a pair of needle nose pliers and just kind of give it a twist and pop it out, okay? And this one's been sitting for quite a while. There we go. All right, so there's the little block, and as you can see here, there are our components, okay? And all the broadheads are set up this way. Again, it doesn't matter which one this is. It doesn't matter if it's our Killer Bees. They fall in the same category, serrated, non-serrated. Again, you could take this non-serrated version, you know, and you could go down and dirty if you had to. I mean, you could sit here and grab it with a pair of pliers and really work it if you wanted to be patient. But honestly, jigs are the way to go. Okay, so with that, we're going to slide some stuff over. I'm going to get this jig set up and show you the down and dirty way to do this. All right, so again, the down and dirty method, the stay sharp little jigs. And then I just went to Home Depot, ran there this morning actually, and bought a bunch of different sandpaper. And there's no science to the grits in the sandpaper, okay? I just bought 4 grits. I went with a 150. A 200, a 400, and an 800 grit. You could go even finer grit if that's what you wanted. I also have a piece of leather here I'll show you on the stropping at the tail end. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get out one of each of these. Okay, so there's our 150, 20, 400, 800. All right, so here are our 4 pieces of sandpaper. We got our 150 grit, 220 grit, 400, and 800. Okay, so that's the sequence that we are going to go. All right, to get started doing this, we're going to loosen the screw in the stay sharp here. In the stay sharps, it just takes a flat screwdriver. I've already loosened it. Okay, and we are going to take our broadhead and we are simply going to slide it in here. Okay, like this. Now, when you do this, you want the blade to be parallel on the same plane as what the end of the jig is, okay? If you have it in here and it's kind of twisted like that, it's not going to sharpen, because when you lay it down, they have rollers here on each side, it just sits here and wobbles, okay? We don't want that. We want it to set parallel and flush. So we need to take this and get it kind of in here twisted so it's parallel and flush. So when you set it down, there is no wobble. And if you have a little bit of wobble, you can use your screwdriver and kind of spread the jaws here a little bit on this jig and move it around in there to where you can eliminate any wobble. And still need to go just a little more on this side. Okay, there we go. All right, and then once we do that, we're going to tighten it down. Now, here's what I recommend. Anytime you're sharpening broadheads, take a black Sharpie and run it down the edge that you're trying to sharpen. Okay, color it. This allows you to see where you've sharpened on the angle. If you just If you see the black Sharpie coming off just out here on the outer edge, okay, then you know you're set too steep. If you see it coming off back here and getting into the meat of the blade, you're too shallow on your angle, okay? So use a black Sharpie as your guide. I just want to make sure I'm good and tight. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our 150 grit sandpaper, okay? And I'm going to put this down here, and we're just going to go back and forth. I'm going to look, and actually what you can see is it's pretty good. It could be a little closer out to the end, and to get it closer out to the end in this kind of jig, I'm going to slide the broadhead in just a little more, just a little closer, because these are not an exact science. It looks pretty good. It feels pretty good. Let's tighten that down. Okay, and this broadhead was very dull because, again, it's been in and out of targets for years. Okay, so now when I sit here and I work it back and forth and I'm not pressing very hard, you can see it's taking the Sharpie right off. So you're just going to work this. Stay Sharp's got a roller guide on each side. You're going to sit here and just saw back and forth. This is your large removal of metal. And already we have sharpened that broadhead very significantly. Okay, so we're going to move this onto the sheet of 220, and we are going to continue down this path. I'm a little OCD on things. I tend to count silently in my head because I want to get that edge. I don't want to grind one side too much further than the other. If you do, you do. I'm going to make a slight adjustment here by rotating that outward just a fuzz right there. Okay. Oh yeah, it's already okay. Now let's move on to this is our 400 grit paper, and we are just polishing this off. And you're going to see when you look at it in the light, you're going to see how much shinier it gets as you do this. Okay, now let's take it to like an 800 grit paper. And you can hear the difference in the sound. Trying to stay, my little green tape is for my cameras to know where the center is. I'm trying to keep it off it because I can feel it under there. And it is turning very bright and shiny. And I mean, this is poor man's because I got, say, 25 bucks in the jig, and I went to Home Depot and I spent $25 on multi-packs of sandpaper. And so now we can already see that now we're cutting paper. Now it still isn't like razor sharp, so what I recommend you do is get a piece of leather. This happens to be just a piece of leather off an old tool belt I found years ago. I nailed it to a board. Get yourself some honing compound. You can get it at any hardware store or auto parts store. I mean, it's just a honing oil. It's got like little diamond dust in there or something. I smeared in here. I did this a little while ago, so it's a little dried out now. But that will really help. And now we can strop this blade. And when you're going on leather stropping, you're not going to go forward. If you do, it'll dig in. You're always going to go backwards. And this is going to take, and you'll actually can see the little burr on the blade. And now it's shining it all up. Okay, so now you can see how shiny that is. I'm hoping that the cameras, I got two different angles here in tight. I'm hoping that that shows you how shiny that is. Okay, and then now when we take it on paper, now you can see how it slices the paper. No big deal. Now we can sit there and work this, and I'm not going to for the sake of video, but the longer you work on this, the sharper that you're going to get it. This is a simple how-to. Okay, now if you want to sharpen the back edge of this blade, okay, because all of ours are back edge sharpened, you're going to simply loosen it up. You're going to simply turn this broadhead. Again, being very careful in the jig. You're going to square up the back edge, and you're going to do the same thing. On all of our heads, we have a tanto type of tip. It protects the integrity of the head, and you can basically run this in here. You're going to square it up best you can, tighten it down, and then you're going to get on your sandpaper and you're going to do the same thing. So you can go around this head and you can sharpen all of those angles. And again, this exact system works on our Ser-Razor heads or Buzzcut heads. Okay, it's the same thing. Ser-Razor being Black Hornets and Buzzcut being the Stingers. This has a little thicker, this blade material, so I gotta spread the jaws of these out. This 3D printed part doesn't open and close like some of the others do. Okay, you're gonna get in there and you're gonna do the same thing. You're never, again, gonna run that through a pull-through sharpener because you're gonna damage the serrations here. We use a chisel serration and we want the squared off edges. Okay, so again, you're gonna do the exact same thing going through the iterations of sandpaper to put that edge on there. So that is the down and dirty. Okay, so now we're going to do the other edge of this stinger that we sharpened, and we're going to do it on the KME system. Okay, so stepping up in expense and everything from sandpaper, it's going to be say like a KME broadhead sharpener, and I have had this one for, I'm going to say 20 years. I bet I've had this setup right here. Okay, and with it, you're going to get a stone. Okay, and you get your jig with an angled one, but I just always use the straight one right here. And you're going to get a little bit of oil. Okay, and I need to take the plug out of the oil here, so bear with me for just a second. I keep this plug in here so that I don't open the case one day and I have oil leaking everywhere. And this stone setup comes with a very rough side and a smoother side. So we'll start with the rough side. I don't really want to scratch my desk here, but and I'm just going to put a few drops of oil on here, and we are going to spread it around. Maybe a couple more drops. Okay. And let me get a rag. Somewhere I have a rag. All right, we have a rag here. Let's do this, okay? Keep all the oil off my desk. All right, so we got some oil on that side. We're gonna want some oil on this side eventually here, okay, as well. All right, so on the KME, to load it, you're gonna pull out your jig. You're gonna loosen this nut on the back. It allows the jaws to open up. You're gonna get in here, and it's gonna be just like the Stay Sharp from the standpoint that you wanna make sure your blade is parallel, and you do have to kind of just finagle your distance to get the angle that you want. You're gonna tighten that nut down. And there's other systems out here. Again, I've just had this. Kami is a solid brand. And you can tighten it up a little bit. And the cool thing about this one is then it swivels back and forth. You got your roller in here and all that. So let's make sure it's good and snug. There we go. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start out on the rough side, and we are gonna get our Sharpie. And we are going to just mark our, okay? And it is literally the same process. We're gonna take this head, and we're gonna sit here and run it back and forth. My stone's got something on it there. There we go. Look at it, and it's not too bad. It probably needs to come out just a little bit on my angle. So let's take and move it outward just a bit. And you'll end up learning your sharpener, where you need to position it. Okay, so we're gonna sit here. Now you could use this also on the sandpaper. There we go, that looks nice. You can hear this one here was all chewed up, and it's been in and out of Target so many times. Oh yeah, it's looking much better. Okay, we're going to take it over to the finer side. I do like the sandpaper a lot of ways better because you run out of real estate on a stone depending on how big your stones are. Oh yeah, it's looking much better. Sandpaper, you can go to a lot of different grits. And really getting an edge on here. This setup allows you to put a lot more force on it just because of the durability, the way it's built, but you're also looking at a sharpening system that, again, I've had this a long time. I would guess today's dollars is probably over $100. I have no idea. And already that is sharp. And then we're going to, again, go back to our leather strop. And we are just going to sit here and do some pulling. And it started to go forward and you saw it caught. Then pick it up before I move my hand. And I can already feel how sharp that is. And you can see, there you go. So it's cutting paper. Again, this was very quick and dirty. If I was going to take my time, I would really, and get this razor scalpel sharp, I would sit there and really work this over. And this head was butter. I mean, it was butter knife dull. Again, the same thing. We can take the serrated version and do the exact same thing, okay? It does not matter when you're doing it this way. You do not have to sharpen down in the serrations on these heads. You're looking at that outer cutting edge as what's going to do the cutting on your deer or game animal, okay? So basically, that is it, okay? So this head, for all intents and purposes, is resharpened. I would, if it was my head, I would work on the tip some, and I would probably check the back blade sharpening. You can also do the same thing with the bleeders. It's much smaller, more delicate, but you can do this exact same principle with the bleeders. Get it in, lock it in there, depending if you're doing the Stay Sharp or this. Does not matter which one you do it with. It just, you're gonna have to take a lot more time to do that. All right, so let's get this reassembled and go over the final details of this. So we've got our major components right here of the head, okay? So I had to get the Black Hornet pieces out here. And again, you would have completely sharpened everything. So the first thing is you got to install your bleeder. Sometimes you'll notice you can probably see it in the overhead camera. There's a little gap there. I take my needle nose pliers and I just give it a little squeeze and it pops right in. You're going to take your block, your spacer block, and your spacer block goes in this gap right here. And the groove in the spacer block lines up with the groove for the broadhead. Now be very careful because you have sharpened the broadhead and you're going to slide the two pieces back together. You're going to get out your little screw and you are going to drop it in the hole. And then you're going to take your #1 Phillips screwdriver, okay? And you are going to tighten it down. Okay. Now, the final step is you want to spin your broadhead. So here's a short arrow shaft. I have always, when you build your arrows, make sure you square your cut and you square your insert because not all inserts are square from the factory. So this one has actually been squared on my squaring device, so I know it spins true and square. Okay, and then the last step you're going to do is you are going to spin your broadhead, and you are going to look for any wobble at all in the tip. And as you can see, there is no wobble. And if you take, the best way to check them is to take a cardboard box. This is one I brought a bunch of broadheads in from outside on. Is take yourself a cardboard box, and I'm going to turn this around so that the other camera can see this, and put it up against the cardboard box and sit here and turn your arrow. Whoops. Turn your arrow. And what you'll find is if it spins true, you'll be left with just a tiny little dot. I mean, I can barely see it, so I'm sure that the cameras can't. If it does not spin true, it will walk down the box. So you want to make sure you spin them, because if they don't spin true, they won't fly true. Every broadhead that Magnus makes is made so that we hand tune the tip to the true center line of the ferrule within 0.003 of an inch. You nor I here at my house desk have that capability of doing that. So you always want to spin them. You can pick up arrow spinners online, various bow shops that sell them. Archery Supply, worst case Amazon for a little bit of nothing. It's a tool that you'll use forever, and just spin them on your arrow and that'd be good. And again, this applies to the whole Stinger family, including the Killer Bees. It applies to the Black Hornet family as well. That's how you want to reassemble them. So with that, I hope that has answered all of your questions on the down and dirty way to sharpen broadheads. It does not have to be expensive. Sandpaper is cheap. You can step it up and get like the KME jig. Honestly, the sandpaper is probably as good, if not better, in an inexpensive, stay sharp jig. So you got a great setup, super easy. So appreciate you guys watching. If you have questions, you can always reach out to us at customer service at magnusbroadheads.com. You can find us on all the social media channels. If you message us, we'll get right back with you for tech support. So thank you so much for watching. Hey everybody, this is Derek Craig with Magnus Broadheads, and today we are going to take a look at sharpening two family groups of our Magnus Broadheads, in particular the Stinger family group and the Black Hornet family group. And in this video, we're going to cover the pull-across sharpeners like a Lanski type. This happens to be a KME. It works exactly like a Lanski. It's just got a handle on it. Or the big dog, the Work Sharp. And how do you go about tackling it to get that premium sharpening finish on your heads? So with that, let's get to it. All right, so let's talk sharpening the Magnus Broadheads with what, quote unquote, I'm going to use it generically like the term Kleenex, a Lanski type sharpener. Basically is a stone on a rod, and it's the pullover, okay? This happens to be the KME knife sharpener. It's essentially the same thing. You're going to put it in there and you're going to pull it across. Okay, so number one, first thing, we have to tear apart the broadheads. Be very careful. This applies whether it's the serrated or non-serrated. I just happen to have two serrated ones in here. All this applies no matter what. We are not using a pull-through sharpener because if we do, we are going to tear up the edges on our serration. So we are going to go across them. Again, if we get out a regular stinger, it's going to be the exact same way. If we get out a Killer Bee, it's from the stinger family, it's going to be the same way. So I'm going to, I think, I'm going to sharpen this one. Why not? I'm going to sharpen this head right here. Okay, so we're going to first get a number 1 Phillips screwdriver, number 1. Number 2 Phillips screwdriver is the one that we probably all have a zillion of around the house. It's used the most common. Number 1 is a step finer, but it's not eyeglasses fine. So it's not your little tiny ones that you're going to use to fix eyeglasses. Okay, and so you're going to very carefully remove the screw. You're going to set it aside. You're going to carefully, even though it's dull, you're going to slide this out. Again, this broadhead here has been through, it's been into I don't know how many foam targets. It's painted white because that's what I do. It's one that I use just for going out and checking my tune on my setups, but it's dull, okay, butter dull. In fact, if we get out a piece of paper, you're going to see it's not going to cut at all, okay? So, but still be very careful, all right, when you're disassembling them. All right, so then we need to remove the spacer block. Sometimes the easiest way is to take some needle nose pliers and actually grab the bleeder blade and wiggle it and pop both of them out at once. So you end up with your 5 parts to your broadhead. The Black Hornet series is exactly the same. It's just a different size of shape of ferrule and different blades, but the 5 components are exactly the same. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter if it's stinger, if it's a Black Hornet non-serrated, okay, it does not matter. They are assembled all the same way. All right, so we're going to set some pieces and parts of this aside, okay? Save them for when we reassemble everything. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is get this in the jig. And so Lanskis and KMEs and any of those types of sharpeners, they come with various stones. They come with an angle guide, and you get yourself a clamp, okay? So this is the clamp on mine. The little rubber things, I've had this thing for, I'll bet you close to 20 years I've had this sharpener. So I kind of struggle with the little rubber pads because they've come unglued. So if you see me struggling, that's my particular unit. It's not a knock on KME or anything like that. Or Lanski, it's just my unit that I've had forever and a day. Okay, so you're gonna get this thing in here. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna set it up so that the blade is parallel to the front of your jig, okay? And then your distance off plays into the angle, but on all of these, you can also set the angle. So I don't worry about it so much. I want to keep the distance off such that my stone isn't hitting into the clamp itself, okay? That's pretty far out there. Now, I have seen guys recommend doing this with it still in the ferrule, and obviously you can see why I would not recommend it. You would have to clamp it on the other side, and then you're trying to go over your ferrule, and you're not going to get the angle that you want, okay? So I would not. So just make sure it is nice and square, parallel across the front, okay? And tighten your clamp down. Okay, now in the Lanskis and the KMEs, you have this rod system in here, and you have to match the angle of your blade. Okay, now this is set fairly steep right now, but the best way to do this is, okay, is to take a black Sharpie, and you're going to run a black Sharpie up the edge of the blade. So you're going to see everything that is not sharpened. And we're going to flip this over, and we're going to do it to the other side. What we're going to do is we're going to set this so that we just grind off the black from the Sharpie, okay? So we're going to take this in here, and again, I'm not really sure if it's set right. Get my glasses on here so I can see. And we're going to just sit here, and I've got the roughest stone on here that I have. And I can see that I am only getting the very edge of this, so I need to actually decrease my angle. I'll pull it down some. I'm going to sit here and go like that. Again, I'm still primarily just getting the edge. Let's bring it down quite a bit more. A little bit better. I think it still needs to go just a little bit more downward. There we go. And there now, most all the way across the blade, I am now removing the Sharpie from the entire thing. Okay, so now I got my angle set. That's let's see, that's at about 18 degrees or so. But I don't ever, I mean, this is just guides on here, so I don't trust it. But it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark. So take your rough stone and just sit here and saw back and forth. Now, you can also do the Tonto tip on these at the same time. You just want to, you're going to roll this over and get it to the right angle, or you can reposition your blade. I personally like to reposition the blade so that I don't mess it up and just my freehanding it. But if you want to be careful enough and do that, you can. Okay, and we're going to flip the entire head over. And now we're going to do this side. Whoops, there we go, lock it in. And you can see it's pretty, in fact, I'm going to just take it up just a fuzz from 18 to about 18 and a half. It's not quite pecking up that edge. There we go. So you're just going to sit there and work it. And then when you think you got it where you want it, you're going to change out to another stone. A little cutting oil. I've been using this sharpener for years on knives and broadheads. Okay, and you'll notice because this is a buzz cut, it's not affecting the actual serrations. And you don't need to sharpen the serrations on our Ser-Razors or Buzzcuts. You don't need to get in there because you're really relying on the edge of that chisel serration right there, okay? Okay, here we go, even finer stone. Get it in here. Again, Lanskis, they operate exactly the same way. Just a different configuration. KME just happens to have a grip on it. And you can feel it. Okay. And yeah, this definitely is getting sharp. Okay, and then finally in mine, it depends, everybody's probably got different amount of stones in their kits. This one here, I actually have this little diamond, ceramic diamond stone or something like that. I can't remember again. It's been eons since I bought this thing. But this is the, and they may, I don't even know, they may sell like leather strop pieces for these. I don't know, I don't have one. If you were gonna strop these, you'd have to throw them in a little jig and you'd have to run them over a piece of strop yourself independently. Like one of the Stay Sharp jigs or something, which I did a whole video on that, using the Stay Sharp to sharpen these. Okay. Now you can hear how fine that is. Okay, so once you've ran them all through, okay, then we can unlock the clamp, pull it out. See, it's covered in oil. And the side that we just sharpened. And now we're cutting paper. So again, this is very quick and down and dirty, what I just did, okay? I don't want to make you sit through a half an hour long sharpening video. I'm telling you the how-tos to go about doing it, okay? So with that, we're going to switch over to the Cadillac of them all, and that's a work sharp. So give me a second to get things reorganized, and we'll start and do the other side of this blade with the work sharp, okay? All right, the work sharp system. This is the Cadillac of sharpening. This happens, the one I have is the professional version. It's the Precision Adjust Elite Knife Sharpener system. It functions very similar to what we saw in the KME or Lanski. It's just a better version of it. It's more rock solid. You got this big fancy jig and everything. Okay, this is for those who want the best. Okay, this is the side on this one that I've not yet sharpened. So what I'm gonna do is just like in the past, I'm gonna take a Sharpie and I'm gonna go down the blade. Go down the blade. Okay, and highlight that because we want to get the grind right, okay? No different than the others. Okay, we are going to open the jaws here of this. We're going to slide the broadhead in here, and we are going to parallel it the best we can. Let's kind of go about like that with the front, and we are going to tighten it down. So on the work sharp, it holds everything very secure. You push a button down and you then can flip your broadhead or knife, whichever you want, from side to side, okay? They have some other accessories. They have a digital angle gauge. If you know the exact angle, you can set this on the workbench, turn it on, zero it out, and you know, come on, zero. There you go. And you got a 0 to start with. So if you know that you want to be at 18 or 22 or whatever it is, this has, on the work sharp, has got some indicators on it, but they're not exact, where this is going to be more exact. That's great if you know what you're looking for. I think personally the best approach is to, you know, if you got a rough idea, is to set it there and then start working it and making your fine adjustments based on your Sharpie marker. So this set I have got goes from 220 all the way up through honing, 2,000, 3,000, and a leather strap. Again, this is kind of their elite version. It's got everything in it. And they magnetically attach. This is a 220. So this would be the one that's really for grinding off some serious material. Okay, just a tiny little drop of oil on these really helps things out. Get my rag here, keep it close by. Okay. It just really helps. And then let's see, I've got this set by their gauges here. I got this set somewhere around, I think about 18, which is, I think, in that ballpark. Looking at this, and I need to go up a little higher so I can get the leading edge a little bit more. Again, checking it with the Sharpie. I like that right about there. Okay, so we're gonna sit here and we're gonna remove some metal with this. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure on this. I'm just kind of using the weight of the head itself. Removing metal, and you can see the metal on that being removed. Okay. There we go. On this side, we'll just double check it. It needs to come down just a bit. There we go. Right there is where it needs to be. Okay. So we're just going to remove. This is just taking metal off. This is for when you've got a really boogered up head that just needs, you've driven it into a rock or something, and you just need to really remove some metal to reshape that entire cutting edge. And this head has been through a lot, or into a lot of foam targets. Okay, so it is dull as a butter knife. Okay, so once that's done, you're just going to then step through the whole process. Okay, so I'm not going to walk you through every one of these stones, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do this, and we'll kind of just fast forward a little bit, or play this back at a higher rate of speed, because I've got a whole set of stones here, and you may or may not have these stones. I may not go clear up into the higher grits or not, but anyways, so we're just going to sit here and work them. All right, so we're at 800 grit right now. Okay. And I can already see it shining up. That's what they call their hone, which is like a ceramic. Okay, I'm actually not going to put cutting oil on this. There's a ton on the blade here, so just let it just do its thing. Woo, that is sharp, and that's just with the hone. Okay, I still have a 1200, a 2000, a 3000, and a strop to go here. Okay, finishing up on the 3000 grit hone. I don't know how well it shows in the cameras, but that is like a mirror finish we have there. And my work sharp has the strop. I mean, I'm sure that there are lower levels of this one that don't, but I got it with the strop. And I'm just going to sit here on a leather strop. You always want to go down kind of with the grind. You don't want to go into the blade. You'll dig into the leather. And this is just going to take and polish out that final edge. Okay. Look at that. I don't know how well you can see that, folks, but I'll take this rod out of here. That is scary, scary, scary sharp right there. Yeah. I mean, that's almost no effort. So this is definitely the easier of the two, the Lanski KME versus of the two, but it also comes with a humongous price tag. Okay, so we got one side that was sharpened on the KME and the other in the work sharp, and there is our Stinger Buzzcut, and that is just, I just don't even know if the cameras will show it, but that is like a mirror finish on that edge that I just did. The same, you would do the exact same thing with the Black Hornet Ser-Razor. Okay, it's just removing the blades and it's just squaring things up. Now you could go through this thing and you could sharpen all the back edges up. You could readjust and do the tonneau tips. Same on the Black Hornet, you want to do that. If you wanted to do the bleeders, you could do those as well. Again, it's just a little more dainty. You're going to have to get them in there. For example, get it in there, something like that. Tighten it down, and it's just going to be a little more dainty and delicate work. It probably is not going to take a lot and all that to get it done. So the next step is to reassemble this head. So let me clear some stuff out here, and I'll show you what we do there. And it really is the necessary and final step to the whole process. All right, to complete everything, we got to get all of our parts here. Now, of course, you want to be incredibly careful because everything will have been resharpened. And you're just going to reverse the disassembly process. Now, a lot of times on these bleeders, you can see, if you're looking down here, you can see there's a slight gap there. Take yourself some needle nose pliers and just squeeze them, make sure it's all the way in there. Take and put your spacer block in. Okay, lining up the slit for the main blade. Okay. Then you're going to take very carefully, because I just sharpened this, your main blade. You're going to, you're going to slide it down into the groove all the way home. And then we are going to get our screw. We are going to just tighten our screw down. If you're using an electric screwdriver, be careful it doesn't twist in your hand. And boom, it's all assembled, but we are not done yet. So at Magnus, in the shop, we tune these to so that the tip to the true center line are within 0.003 of an inch. Obviously, you at home can't do that. I can't even do that here at my shop or my home desk here where I'm at. So take your arrow. When you build your arrows, make sure when you cut them, you square them completely. And when you glue in the inserts, you square your inserts, because a lot of these aluminum inserts, believe it or not, are not square. So I put mine on a squaring device and square them all. This one has been, so I know it spins through. And you're going to put the head on an arrow, okay? And get yourself an arrow spinner, okay? And spin the arrow. You're going to see there is no wobble in the tip. If it spins true, it flies true. A better way to check that is to take a cardboard box, okay? And I'm going to turn this around so that these cameras over here can see this a little bit better, okay? Put the tip of it up against a cardboard box and spin it. Now, what you'll find is if it spins true, it will leave the tiniest little point dot in there. I mean, it's so tiny you can barely see it, okay? If it's not, it will actually walk across the cardboard, okay? So that's how you can tell. If it spins true, it's going to fly true. It's very important. You can pick up these spinners at bow shops, at all your major hunting outlet retailers. You can even get them on Amazon. They don't cost a ton of money. I bought this one 20 plus years ago, and it's a spend it once and you've got that tool forever. And you should spin all of your arrows. If you have any wobble, and I don't care whose broadhead it is, even your field tips, if you have any wobble at all, they're just not gonna fly. So there you go. So that is the basics of sharpening with, say, the Lanski or KME and even the Work Sharp sharpening systems on all of our heads. As always, if you have any questions, you can email us at customerservice@magnusbroadheads.com. You can reach out to us on all social media channels and send us a message, and we will help you out. I hope that covers everything in that type of sharpener. Thanks for watching. All right, let's talk about sharpening the Magnus single bevels. This applies whether it's the 125, the 150, the Buzzcut, or the straight version. This happens to be a straight version that I've got. This head here, I ran through, I think 4 deer. This exact one right here. I touched up the edge each time. I mean, it's sharp enough right now, but it's not razor sharp. See, it's not, but we can do better with this. So I'm going to show you how to sharpen these. Now, you're not going to want to use a flat stone on these. I mean, if you're a guy who pays super close attention to detail, you could, if you had a flat stone set up and a jig, you could sit there, but you'd have to sit there and work it around the curve, okay? And it's going to be very time consuming. It's not going to be very precise, and that is not the way to go about doing that. So the best way to do it would be using a Lanski type sharpener, or KME, that's what I happen to have, but everybody's familiar with Lanski. I use a term like Kleenex. That type is where you're taking a rod and a stone and you're going down like this, or a Work Sharp. So I'm gonna do one side of this on my KME setup here and the other side on a Work Sharp and walk you through this, okay? So the first thing we gotta do is we gotta tear this apart, okay? All Magnus broadheads use a #1 Phillips screwdriver. Number 2 Phillips is the one that we all have a gazillion of in drawers and toolboxes. It's the most common size. Number 1 is a step down. It's a little tighter point. It is not an eyeglasses size, okay? So it's not a micro, it's just a number 1, okay? And every one of these single bevels has 2 screws, 1 on each side. So we're going to loosen this. Take this screw out. These go together very simply. Set that screw aside, flip it over, take out the other one. And basically you have 4 parts. You have 2 screws. You're gonna slide the blade out and the ferrule. It's as simple as it gets, okay? So we're gonna set the ferrule and the screws aside, set the screwdriver aside, and here you go. You can even see that there's still a little bit of fat and stuff from a deer that I killed. So, you know, you could clean this up, you could clean everything off, but I'm just not gonna worry about it right now for what we're doing. Okay, so when we go and sharpen this, the first thing that we need to do is we need to get it in the clamp. Okay, and again, Lanski, KME, they're exactly the same. I've had this KME for 20 years at least, maybe more. My little rubber pad things here on the jaws are kind of detaching, so they're kind of a little bit of a pain. That's not a KME thing. It's literally is my unit because I've used it so much on knives and broadheads over the years. So bear with me as I slide this broadhead into these jaws. Okay, so how we're going to do this is, it's not a straight edge. So unlike a straight blade where you'd want to set it up parallel, okay, what I'm going to kind of do is I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to work on the curve, and I'm going to just kind of split the difference and go, well, imaginary straight line from about that tip right in there to that tip on that edge over there. Just kind of eyeball it, get it in there. We can adjust the angle on these pretty easily, both Lanskis and this KME, and I'm going to tighten down the jaws and get it very solid, okay? So, grab a rag here to make sure I got no oils on it. All right, so the first thing I do with any broadheads is I get out a black Sharpie marker, or any other color, I guess it doesn't have to be black, and I take that Sharpie and I color the grind with the Sharpie. Okay, that is our guide on the angle. Okay, now Lanski's, KME, Work Sharp, all the others, they have angle guides on them, and if you know the angle, it'll just get you close because, quite frankly, all these marks, they aren't exact. Okay, they're just a rough guide. All right, so I'm going to set this down. We're going to get our guide, and I'm going to start with my most abrasive stone. Actually, I'm not, because this one isn't super dull. I'm going to grab one of the more abrasive stones. And I have honing oil on these. You want to make sure you put a drop of honing oil on these and smear them around, okay, on your stones. But I have it from a previous sharpening job, okay? And then on this, I know that this is a lot steeper than 18 degrees, I think. Don't quote me. I think these are up around 30 degrees. So I'm going to start somewhere up around here, okay? And then you're just going to take this thing and you're going to pick a spot. And you're just going to see, look at that. It took the Sharpie off. Now, was it the oils or the grind? That's about right there. Looking at the grind on that. Might be a little more. So just use this in your Sharpie as a guide to get you, there we go. I like that. I can see the grind marks. Okay, so once you got your angle right, okay, you're just going to sit here and you're just going to work this. Tighten this down. Sorry about this. So it holds it in position. There we go. All right, so you're going to just work this around the curve. Okay, now you could just go around the curve. I like to just sit here and just go work myself along the edges. Now, unlike a double bevel, beautiful part is you're not flipping it over, because if you did, you would affect this back side, and we want the back side of these to be flat, okay? So you're only going to sharpen one side. So you could do this if you were going to do both sides. I'm going to do the other side on the Work Sharp. You could take this out, remove it every time. I would work one side, get it as sharp as you wanted, and then I would flip things around and do the other cut and go through all my stones again. Okay. Just gonna sit here and check that out. And looking at it in the light, and I can see it's definitely polishing up. That looks, just looking at it, I'm just double checking the angle to make sure. Okay, you're gonna do this. You also, on these, we got the back sharpening. You could reposition this thing and do all the back sharpening on the back end of the blade. So then you're just going to step through your stones, okay? That's all you're gonna do. And again, Lanski works under the exact same premise of a KME, okay? And I'm sure there's other brands out there. So we're gonna take this next stone, and I need to tighten my rod here. And we're just going to sit here and work through it. And again, just kind of be cognizant, you're following a curve. I know some guys will say, well, you can do that, and you can. My preference is to go like this. If you want to saw at it, you can. I tend to just kind of on these, just like to go one direction. Take my time. Sit here and look at the reflection every once in a while. Yeah, it's starting to get sharp. I can definitely feel it. Okay, we're going to step it up to another stone. You're just going to run through your progression. I have 5 stones. You might have 4 or 8 or whatever in your kit. I mean, it kind of all depends on what kit you elected to buy in them, okay? But just sit there and get gradually finer and finer. And finer. And if you really take your time, you can really get these sharp, okay? I mean, just a mere, absolute mere finish you can get if you really take your time, okay? We're doing this for the sake of video. I'm walking you in the how-to, all right? If these were mine or if it was my knife or something like that, I would really spend a lot of time on this. And my last one I've got is this ceramic diamond thing. I don't know. Again, I've had this for so long, I don't even remember the details on this little thing. Good little sharpener. I mean, I don't know. I think back in the day I paid about $70 or so for this. I'm sure today they're well over 100, but this is a good setup. I know Lanskis are a great setup. Here, how smooth that is. You know, and the longer you sit here and polish this and hone it, the sharper it's going to be. And I would assume that there's some leather strop ones available for these. I don't happen to have that. If I was going to leather strop it, I would have to do it by hand and that would take a lot of time. So we're not going to go there today. Again, we're just looking at doing that. So, okay, that is, I don't know how well, but it is a very clean finish. Okay, now you want to watch for burrs as well. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. What I'm going to do here is, you don't want to roll the edge over, and I can just see it. I can barely feel it. Okay, so if that's the case, what we're going to do is we're going to set this about as low as we can take it. And I'm just going to keep my ceramic hone in here, and I'm not going to put, I'm going to let the weight of it go as low as I can, and I'm just going to run it very lightly. I don't want to put a bevel on it. I just want to clean up that little bit of a burr. And I was barely putting any pressure on that. Okay? So let me flip this back over. So now we got ourselves a very sharp, if I just pull it out and do it by hand, rather than use this big jig. Okay? So now, try to get the right side. Yeah, that's one I just sharpened. Okay? See how sharp that is now. Okay? So it is very sharp. You could really work this over and get it much sharpener. But again, we are doing this just on video here. I don't want to make this an hour-long video, okay? So I'm going to sharpen the other side. I'll mark it right now so I know. That's the side we're going to sharpen, and we're going to set up on the work sharp to do that side. All right, so stay tuned while I get things set up. All right, so here we have the Cadillac of sharpeners. This is the work sharp jig setup. This happens to be their professional precision adjust elite knife sharpener kit. This goes all the way from a 220 grit clear through a hone, 1200, 2000, 3000, and a strop on this. Okay, this is the Cadillac. There's different versions of this out there that they sell. Okay, but it is the same principle. Okay, you get yourself a jig, you got yourself a dial here. We can set your different your angles. I know this has to be up around 30 somewhere, and you got yourself a clamp that rotates back and forth, and your guide rod with a set of different stones. Now these also have this little zero indicator thing here. You can turn this on, and you can zero. It's actually zero set. You can zero it out setting on the table. So then, if you really know your exact, you can dial it into that. Personally, I mean, it's close enough for me on these using the guides, because I'm going to take this, and again, I'm going to get out our black Sharpie marker, and I'm going to color the side that we are going to sharpen. And I'm going to use that as my true tail guide, okay, as to how much metal we are taking off. Okay, just as we did with the Lanski type or the KME type, okay, we're going to open our jaws, and we're going to place this in here, and since we don't have a straight edge, okay, we're going to have to kind of wing it here, and I project an imaginary line between the tip and that corner there, get it about parallel with the jaws. I like that. That seems to be good. And tighten them down very tight so nothing can move. Okay, and re-sharpie that. I wiped a little bit of it off. And then we're just going to take our whatever stone we want. This is a 220. I actually don't need to remove this on that much metal on this head because it's not that dull. I'm going to throw a 400 on there. Okay, and we're going to screw this in. So you can see the mechanics are exactly the same. This is just heavier duty, more precise, more honing options and all that. I know it's somewhere around 30 degrees, so I'm going to set this on here. I'm just going to put the grind, and look at that. You can see it's a little heavier on the leading edge, and it starts to fade out right there towards the back. So I'm actually going to take it down just a little bit, okay? And boom, look at that. We got a nice, steady from front to back. You can see that right there. So that's my angle, just shy of 30 on there. I mean, I guess if we want to know exact, we can power this on. And there you go, 28.75 according to this, okay? So there you go. That tells you, but you know, you just got to do what you got to do here. So I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to follow the curve just like I did with the KME / Lanski style. And again, if I wanted to, I can reposition this and do the back blades. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to jump to the next grit and so on. Now all these have a light coating of oil on them from another sharpening job I did a little while ago. So you want to make sure you use some sort of compound. These come with a honing compound. You can use an oil. I'm sure Worksharp will tell you that their honing compound is better. And I'm just going to fast forward through this while I do it. So I'm going to make you watch me go through them all. I'm on the hone portion now, and I'm not pressing hard. I'm letting the weight of the head. I'm just using my hand to position it and guide it, but I'm really just kind of letting the weight of the head do the work. Okay. We're going to these higher option. All right, so we are at the 3000. Okay, now here's what I'll tell you is, again, we want to watch the little burr on the backside and keep things flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to use one of these higher, really high grits, and I'm going to run this thing all the way down. This is before I have the strop one, but I'm going to do this before I strop it, okay? And I just don't want it to hit my tool. So I'm going to very lightly, like not even the whole weight of the tool. And just take that little burr off, and now it's gone, okay? Just like that. And I'll run this back up to my blade angle that I was sharpening at, and I'm going to throw the strop on. If you have a strop, great. If you don't, you could strop it by hand on leather. It'd be a lot of work. Again, with a leather strop, you never want to go, whoops, let's flip this over. You never want to go into the blade. You're going to catch on the leather. You always are going to go with the blade, and you're just putting that final mirror finish on that blade, and you're getting that thing just scary sharp. Absolutely scary sharp. Let's get this out of the way here. Again, the more time you spend on this, the sharper you're going to get it. Loosen this thing up. Okay. And I don't know if we can see it. There is that. It is an absolute mirror finish on there. Let's get my paper. Okay. And I'm going to take this, slice right through that paper. No problem. So there's that. Now, okay, now both of them are resharpened. Now we got to put it back together for the final steps. Let me tear this down and we'll do all that. All right, so we have our parts. Now we got to reassemble the broadhead. Again, be very careful because now we have made this thing scary razor sharp. Get it seated in. You have 2 screws. They are identical. And you're going to want to use your number 1 Phillips head. And if you're using a screwdriver that's electric, be careful because it will want to torque it in. Okay, so be very careful. Okay, and we'll just tighten these down. Now, the final step. When we at Magnus assemble these in the shop, we have a jig that we put these in, and we micro-tune the tip to true center line of the ferrule to within 0.003 of an inch. You at home don't have that equipment, nor do I here at my house, okay? So we're going to spin test these, all right? So get yourself an arrow. This is just a chop off of an arrow. It's got an insert in it. When you cut your arrows, make sure you put them on a squaring device so that they're square. When you glue in your inserts, most aluminum inserts, they're not made the best. Make sure you square those as well, okay? It's very important that any broadhead, I don't care who's manufacturer, I don't care if it's fixed blade, mechanical, they need to spin well. And that starts with your arrow and your insert. This has all been squared off so I know that it spins properly. Screw your broadhead onto your arrow and get yourself an arrow spinner. These arrow spinners, you can find them online. You can go to your bow shop. You can go to your online hunting supply stores, your big names. You can even get them on Amazon. They don't cost a lot. I've had this one for probably 20 years. You buy it once. I don't know. You can probably pick them up for 20, 25 bucks. I honestly don't know because I haven't bought one in eons. And spin test your heads and look for any wobble. You notice there is no wobble in that. The best way to check it is get yourself a cardboard box. Okay, I'm going to turn this around so the cameras can see this. Take your cardboard box and your broadhead and put your broadhead right up against the cardboard box and hold them and sit here and spin your broadhead. If it spins true, you'll be left with the tiniest little point. You can barely see it. I'm sure that the cameras can't. I can barely see it with my eye. If it doesn't spin true, it will walk across the cardboard. Okay, so make sure that they spin true and then they will fly true. Okay, so that's it. That is how really easy it is to sharpen our single bevel heads. Again, this applies to right hand or left hand, buzz cut or non-buzz cut. In the serrated buzz cut versions, you don't have to worry about sharpening down in the voids of the serrations. That's not what those are there for. They're there for other reasons, to open up bigger holes, and actually allows on the single bevel and the twisting on soft tissue to do a lot more damage, okay? So that's really is how easy it is. And I didn't spend a lot of time on this one, but if it was mine, I would sit here and I would work them. I'd probably, because I have access to it, use the work sharp, but the Lanskis, KMEs, those are fine as well. So there you go. If you have any questions, about any of the sharpening or any tech-related things, you can reach us at customer service at magnusbroadheads.com. You can also reach out to us on all the social media channels, send us a message, and we'll get back with you and step you through, you know, whatever issues you might be having or answer any questions you got. So with that, that wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless. Woo! That was a lot of video shooting because I did 3 of these for a Magnus, and I'm lumping them all into this one. I'm sure I sped a lot of this up. I don't even know what the edit's going to look like. I appreciate all of you for sticking around, those who made it this far into the video. If you have any questions about sharpening the Magnus lineup of heads, whether it's our Stinger family, the Black Hornet family, or the single bevel family of heads, just sending me a message in the comments and I will help you guys out. So with that, as always, I appreciate more than you know your viewing and your support. You know, I'm going to do the cheesy. I haven't done it in a while. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about my channel. It really means the world to me. So with that, as always, God bless, stay safe. Man, it's snowing outside and turkey seasons are way too off, or far off in the distance, but they'll be here before we know it. All right, as always, it's a new day in the outdoors.